Welcome to our latest episode of Muscular Dystrophy UK's podcast series, Muscles Matters. I'm Jackie and I'm your podcast host for today. I work at Muscular Dystrophy UK as the Head of Regional Support Outreach and Information. Today we'll be discussing people's experiences of helpline support and the other services this might lead to, what people have found the most useful, how it's helped them navigate difficult times, and what types of support are available for people living with a muscle wasting and weakening condition and their wider support network. So I'm really excited to welcome two great guests with me today, Bernard and Zoe, who both live with a muscle wasting and weakening condition. They'll be drawing on their own experiences and those of others they know, and also offering advice and tips from what they've learned. So in my role at MD UK, I work closely with our helpline team and regional support staff to provide practical and emotional support to individuals and families across the UK. This includes helping people access vital information, connecting them with specialist services, and ensuring they feel supported through some of the most challenging times. So I'll also be sharing some of my own insights during today's discussion. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start by asking our guests to introduce themselves. Bernard, can you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Hi, I'm Bernard. I'm 64 now. I was first diagnosed with FSHD about 30 odd years ago, but thankfully it didn't impact my life at all until the last 12, 15 years. And I was lucky enough then to receive a disability living allowance. It then changed to PIP, and I was reassessed and lost everything. And that was when I sort of first encountered MD UK and got in touch with their advocacy department. My condition has deteriorated over the years. I still try and do as much as I can, and I know there's people with far worse condition than me. I just feel it's important to try and give something back and offer advice where possible.
Thanks, Bernard. And Zoe, could we come to you? Are you happy to introduce yourself and just share a bit about your background?
Yep, of course. Hi, obviously my name's Zoe. I am Muscular Dystrophy UK's information officer, but I also have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. I've known about the charity personally for quite a few years, as I have followed along with a lot of their information and support outlets and resources, and I've really just found it helpful to meet other people with the condition that also use the charity. I think I really love being able to share my own lived experience to help and support others, and I couldn't think of another episode that I'd rather be on than this one, because it's something that I'm very passionate about.
Thank you both very much for sharing a bit about yourselves. So if we could just start with your own experiences and understanding of helpline support or those of others you know. So Bernard, you kind of touched on this in your introduction, but are you happy if we come to you first?
Yes, by all means. As I say, I first had the connection with MD UK when it transferred from disability living allowance to PIP, and they took everything away, even after appeal. So it was a couple of years later, reapplied, again got refused, but then with the help of MD UK, was able to at least get the standard rate of care. Left it a few more years. I mean, I was still working full time, so that was still good. Then realised my mobility was getting worse, so I applied for the enhanced mobility on the PIP. Again, got refused. So once again, back to MD UK, who one of your colleagues, Paige, who knows from her own experiences, I think, with her brother, who she's cared for in the past, and we wrote a brilliant supporting letter, which then got me the PIP. It shows that they understand what they're talking about, and they actually spoke to people at DWP, because I think that is half the problem. People at DWP don't understand a muscular wasting condition, and it is important that we still get all the benefits that we should do and we're entitled to, because it does impact on your own sort of life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bernard. Zoe, are you happy to share kind of your experience with the helpline?
Yep, I think my first introduction was being able to join some of the support groups and also meet other people with similar conditions. And I think I found that type of support alongside the helpline really beneficial. It was really nice to just finally speak to other people that understood it, but that also really wanted to help other people in the same boat, really. I think, like Bernard said, the PIT process, I know myself, it's not a nice thing to have to go through, to keep having to reapply and go through the process, and it can stir up a lot of different emotions, I think, and being able to sometimes speak to someone who understands it but can take a step back and advise you on the best way to support you and ensure that you have the right level of help that you're entitled to is really beneficial. I have used the helpline with other charities as well, which again I found really comforting during quite a lonely time. I have always been really passionate about mental health. I come from a counselling background myself, and so being able to be on the other side and access that help through the charities resources was really brilliant.
Thanks, Zoe. And you've both touched on things that I've certainly experienced when I've been working on the helpline as well. So Bernard, you'd mentioned about having that, being able to speak to someone who understands the kind of complexities around living with a muscle wasting condition, and actually the difference that can make when you're kind of going through that application process, or you're wanting that other party to make an informed decision about your condition as well. And so you'd mentioned something that actually kind of leads us nicely on to the next part around how the helpline can kind of open access to other types of support as well. But both of what you said kind of really resonates with the experiences I've had on the helpline as well. So you'd mentioned obviously about kind of access and support through the helpline, kind of peer support and things like that as well. So that's something that we see quite often, that the helpline is a kind of entry point to other forms of support and help. So I wonder if you could both just talk a little bit about this, about, after contacting the helpline, how that might have opened up more support points for you. So Zoe, are you kind of happy to kind of elaborate on that a wee bit more?
Yeah, so when I first contacted the helpline, I was very naive, and to be honest, I didn't really know what type of help was out there. I really was very new to accessing the charity, and it was really eye-opening to then find out that there was all these different levels of support, whether it be information days, whether it be one-to-one support with someone with your condition, or someone who, was like a parent of carer of someone with the condition, or the muscle groups. There was really so many different avenues and different options that I was presented with of where to go for help. And I think for me it was really comforting to just finally know that, oh, I can meet other people like me in I guess a safe and comfortable space, in a supportive manner, and people that really wanted to help and support you. I think that's something that is so important with our helpline. It isn't just a case of, oh, you ring up once, have a brief conversation, and that's it. Like, you, there are so many different avenues you can be pointed in. There's different resources that you can access specifically for you, because I feel like we all like to be supported in different ways. One thing that might work for me might not work for somebody else, and it can really be taken at your own pace and what works best for you. And I think that's what is so important about having all of these different options. There really is something that works for everybody.
Thanks, Zoe. And I think you've mentioned something that, I feel quite strongly about as well, is about that kind of ongoing communication, and it not just being that one-off contact, about is kind of maintaining that relationship with people, and for people to know that they can come back to the helpline as and when they need it as well. Bernard, are you happy to kind of share a bit about those how maybe contacting the helplines expanded on the different types of support that you're involved in now? And I know that obviously you're part of kind of WhatsApp groups and things like that as well. Are you happy to chat a bit about how that's impacted on your journey with the charity?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it was a couple of years ago when you introduced sort of counselling as such, but there was there was four of us, sort of, in the 60s plus bracket, who sort of had online support with Louise, the counsellor who we work with, and we've then sort of moved on to that to sort of like a little sort of friendship thing, and we still have a regular sort of, when we can, weekly Zoom meeting, sort of 2 years on, even though we've got different conditions. And it's quite enlightening because there's a couple of the chaps in there who actually, they think they're doing family ancestry, and they could actually be related. Just this is all just come about through that initial group. And as I say, so I'm on WhatsApp groups as well. Some are more active than others. The FSHD one can at times be very busy with sort of conversation, but there's people from all different parts of the country, different ages, but they all have different aspects of the FSHD, which I think people just automatically think, oh, you've got FSHD, right, that's that. And you're pigeonholed a little bit, but we've all got different aspects of it. Some struggle more with mobility. It's all very, I think that's why it makes it so difficult for consultants to try and understand our struggles at time, because we're all different. But I just find it's interesting to talk, chat with other people with the same condition to see how they go from the day-to-day life with things. And sort of, starting on that little group that we had, and we're still going 2 years later, is a testimony to that it does work and it helps talking. So, I did sign up to offer peer support. I've only just sort of got all the regulations passed now, so it's just trying to find someone who might want to talk to me.
Absolutely. And I think you've both kind of covered really important points here about, that first contact with the charity, and actually, how at MDUK we try and provide that kind of tailored support to people as well. So we do that in a number of ways, through the kind of resources that we provide and information that we try and make available to people. But Bernard, what you'd mentioned as well about that kind of group support as well, it's amazing to hear about those relationships and how they've developed into what they have now as well through being connected with the charity. And I know that that group environment can sometimes be challenging for people. It's not what everyone's looking for. I know some people prefer the kind of one-to-one aspect, and we do have our kind of peer support, our one-to-one peer support that you'd mentioned, as well, for people who might not be as comfortable in that group setting. But I suppose if anyone was thinking about, getting involved with the WhatsApp groups or kind of getting involved in peer support, have you got any kind of advice that you might give them, or kind of anything that you might want to kind of say about the difference that that's made to you being involved with the support aspect?
I think on the WhatsApp group, it's people sort of come and go on those groups. It's just how confident they feel about disclosing information. There have been a couple of instances where someone has really opened up, but everyone has come together and supported them, and they've been grateful for that, and they've gone and looked for other support, within the organisation and beyond. And I think it's just, don't be afraid about anything, and there's always someone there who can try and answer the questions. They might not have all the answers, but they can at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the really good things about the WhatsApp groups is it's able to connect people across the UK, and it gives that instant access to each other as well. But I suppose an important thing to mention as well is that we do offer a kind of in-person support as well. I know that virtual aspect isn't always for everyone, so we do have our kind of in-person events that we run at different times as well. But from speaking with you both, I think the theme that's running through is around reaching out, isn't it, and making that connection with people, whether that be the charity or whether that be connecting with the wider community as well. So we've chatted a wee bit about our experiences on the helpline and kind of different perspectives and things like that. But we know sometimes that actually people might find it difficult to reach out to us, and particularly approach a helpline, when there hasn't been contact there before, or if they're experiencing an issue or going through a kind of challenging time. If it's their first time reaching out, they might not know what to expect, or they just might feel that it's too complicated to explain what they're going through. So I suppose what advice would you give to somebody who might be thinking about reaching out to MD UK but hasn't done that yet? I think one of the things that we hear quite often is that there's so many different people involved in someone's life when they're living with a muscle wasting condition, lots of different professionals and things like that. And sometimes it can be quite daunting, I suppose, to add another person into the mix. So what advice would you give to someone who might be thinking about reaching out to us on the helpline? And I'm happy to whoever wants to answer that first.
I'm happy to answer that. So I'll be honest, like for a lot of my younger years, I really isolated myself and I felt really overwhelmed by all the people that were involved in your life with muscular dystrophy, and I really wanted to avoid it all. I didn't really accept the diagnosis, and I think one of the really great things about having the confidence to reach out is the fact that MD UK, it's a really different type of relationship. Like all of your people involved from a medical perspective and that, it is very medical and daunting. And there are elements of support with that with MD UK, but the MD UK support it's for you as a person. It's for you living your life in the most comfortable, best way that you can. Like there's so many ways they can support you. It's not just emotional. Like they really will go kind of above and beyond and do as much as they can to help ensure that you're living your life to the best ability that you can. And I think when I first reached out, I just finally felt, honestly, like this kind of this homely type feeling. Like I felt like it was a place where I could finally just be myself and be honest and have people that really understood and really wanted to help. They really cared and shared the same passion for muscular dystrophy, because the majority of people involved with the charity have some type of relationship to the condition or experience one way or another. So there really is that genuine passion to want to make a difference, because I think MD UK truly does care. And I think, yes, it is very daunting at first reaching out to anyone, but it's such you're always met with such a warm, kind welcome from everybody in the charity, no matter who answers the phone or message or email.
Thanks. So it's really nice to hear that that's been your experience with the charity, and I know that the team that I work with as well, they would love to hear that feedback as well. Bernard, is there anything that you want to kind of add to that in terms of, if someone's thinking about contacting us for the first time and maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by that?
Yeah, I mean, I've attended quite a few of the information days, but I think that might be a bit daunting for someone who's new to the charity. So if they were able to join a more localized thing, I think that would benefit them, and they could see and meet people near to them who are going through the similar situation, and probably find it easier then to talk to someone. Because as I say, the information days are quite, they're quite a big thing, and people might not feel comfortable opening up to people. Whereas if it was a smaller group, or as you say, go on to the WhatsApp groups and just introduce themselves, explain what their condition is. I mean, I know from personal experience, like the FSHD group is very friendly, and we've had new people come on there, and they're soon part of the group, and everyone is always looking out for each other. And I think that is the main thing, because everyone knows not exactly what everyone's going through, but they have a feel of the extremities which it can bring, in various day-to-day activities. And it's just interesting, people sharing information about how they cope with things, whether it be a wheelchair or an access problem. And I think just people sharing ideas, I think that often breaks the ice with things as well, because you can think, you can resonate with people who've got a similar problem. And so I think probably a WhatsApp group would be the first place for them to go to and just sort of introduce themselves. If it's not for them, it's not for them. But I'm sure there'll be other opportunities for people. That's where the peer support then might come in rather than the WhatsApp groups. But I say, I found the information days useful. So I've been to 4 or 5 now. But I can understand that it could be quite daunting for someone who's not used to that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've touched on lots of different types of support available from MDUK, from the kind of in-person information days. We've got our kind of regional muscle groups that we hold across the UK. And we've also got that kind of virtual aspect to the group setting and the one-to-one support as well. So I think something that we really try and do at MDUK is try and make sure that there's that support for everyone to meet people where they're at as well. And from a helpline perspective, I know that when people get in contact with us for the first time, we try and kind of meet them where they're at, so not everyone wants that big lot of information straight away. It might just be that they just want to hear a friendly voice or just kind of chat through what's happening at that point in time as well. And Bernard, I think it's really fascinating and really amazing to hear actually how your kind of journey with MDUK has evolved from that initial point of contact to all these different groups that you're now involved in, to the kind of volunteering part as well, and attending the information days and things like that as well. So it's really, great to hear that point of contact has expanded into so much for you. And I think from speaking with both of you, something that's very much came through in this chat is around the kind of power of community and connection and meeting and speaking with other people as well. And I think you've both kind of touched on a really important aspect of support, in that I think being able to connect with people just makes things feel a bit less isolating sometimes as well. And I know that there can be lots of challenges, and actually being able to come together with other people and discuss through that and hear what other people are doing and things like that can be really helpful. So is there anything that you wanted to add to what Bernard was saying?
I think I very much agree with a lot of what you had to say there. I think there's so many different elements that are a bit of a struggle, and I think I followed along with obviously the Changing Places campaign, and I found that through MTUK. Like I hadn't heard of it before, and I think it's so nice to see the power of the community and joining alongside together, that the difference that can be made, because there is so much. I think the way to make changes to those elements and ensuring everywhere is accessible is the power of community and us all linking together and trying to make that difference and have our voices heard, really, and being able to join in with MDUK and do that together. I think we're quite a strong little unit.
Thanks, Zoe. And it's something I would just like to mention as well, because I know from working with families and kind of people in the community that actually being able to pick up that phone sometimes can be really quite difficult to do, quite an overwhelming thing to think about, to kind of chat through either your situation or the difficulties that you're experiencing. And we do try and kind of give people different ways in which they can contact us, so we have our social media pages, and we've also got our info inbox where people can email us as well. Sometimes it's easier to put things down in writing than it is to actually speak to someone. And something I suppose is important to highlight is that sometimes just making that contact and then allowing MDUK to take it at your pace as well is really important. In some parts of the country as well, we do have regional contacts. So I'm based in Scotland, along with two of my colleagues. We also have a regional contact in Wales and Northern Ireland, and we have our helpline team in England as well. So there's also kind of more local points of contact if people would be more comfortable speaking to someone a bit nearer to you as well. But it's been so great to speak to you both. It's been such a helpful discussion, and we're just kind of nearing the end of the podcast now. But before we go, do either of you have one last bit of advice or a tip about helpful support you've received and how you might access it? I'm
I
putting you on
think
the
it's
spot.
just always know that there's someone there who will point you in the right direction. They might not have the answers there at their fingertips, but they'll be able to say, have you tried this? Or have you tried that? And I think it's just to let people know you're not alone, And so I think we know there's no cure for some of these things at the moment, but if you can get as much support to make your life better, then that is part of that's a good way to go.
Thanks, Bernard. And you've pointed out something that I feel is really important as well, is that we aren't always the right people to be providing particular types of support, but if we can't, we're always happy to signpost on or try and get you the answers that you need as well. So we'll always work with you to try and get you what you need. And Zoe, is there anything from you just before we wrap up?
I think I very much agree with the sentiment there that you are never alone when you're with MDUK, and I think it having a muscle wasting condition, it's a long journey, no matter how unique your journey is and the variety, it's a long road for a lot of us, and I think being able to just speak to people that get it and have a backbone like MDUK, that they're always there to catch you. They're like that little safety net for you whenever you need them. And yeah, I really can't recommend enough to people to reach out if you do feel you just need that little bit of support, whatever it may be, because I really can't fault the help and support that I've received. It's really been very, very life-changing in a lot of ways for me, and I think it's also helped give me a lot more confidence to be me and feel okay being me and accept who I am, really.
Thanks, Zoe, and thanks, Bernard, as well. So unfortunately, that brings us to the end of today's episode, and I really just want to thank you both so much for coming on our podcast today and for sharing your stories, and I'm sure our listeners have found it really helpful. So just to mention, at Muscular Dystrophy UK, we're proud to have recently launched our bold, ambitious new 10-year strategy. So over the next decade, we'll be focusing on 4 key strategic goals, one of which is no one faces their journey alone. We will reach everyone with information and support at the point of their diagnosis and be there for them at every stage of their journey. So to find out more about our helpline support, you can go to www.musculardystrophyuk.org/support, or you can call and speak to a member of our helpline team on 0800 652 6352. To find out more about our new strategy and our immediate priorities, you can visit our website, where there's a webpage that's called Our Strategy. Finally, if you'd like to send in any suggestions for future discussions on our Muscles Matters podcast, or have any questions following today's discussion for us or our guests, you can contact us on podcast@musculardystrophyuk.org. Have a great day, and we look forward to the next time.